All right. Here we go. Oh, Lord. Get my applause going. Get you fired up. All right. Per usual. I mean, we got a name. You know, my names are always technical. So we're going to continue. We're going to add on to, we're going to build upon what we started in the previous podcast, the stress rest continuum, add some depth to that and all that stuff. So this is basically a continuation. We're calling this right now, it's called SRC TSL Vagus Nerve Breathing, which is not a title at all. It's so I know what the heck it is when I'm looking at it on the pewter. And so let's get into this a little bit. Goal of this episode is understand stress even better. Last episode was to understand stress. We're going to begin to understand it even better. I don't know if that's possible. We're going to try. Understand why you can control it. Understand how we can control it. Let me back up. Understand stress even better. Understand why we can control it. Understand how we can control it. And I don't have another word for it today, but then I came across one, but I was already like wrapping this thing up. I've already got a ton of time into it. And so it's proprioception or proprioceptive, which is going to pop up. I use that word all the time at the gym, and it's going to pop up in there. So most of you who are listening to this have probably heard me use that word before. Outline of topics. We got updates. We got an opening statement, which is a little bit different. There wasn't any questions from the audience, so I thought this would be a good one to open up with this opening statement. You'll see why in a second here. Coming right up. We've got total stress load, which is going to add on to that concept of the stress rest continuum. Excuse me. We're going to talk about the vagus nerve. So we'll get into a little bit of anatomy. What is breathwork? We're going to break that down. And then we will have some final thoughts to wrap it all up. So super quick again, updates, opening statement, total stress load, vagus nerve, what is breathwork, and final thoughts. Okay, updates. And if you don't like the updates, you can just pick up your phone and go 30-second fast forward, 30-second fast forward, 30-second fast forward. But these are a little bit short today. Lions took care of the Colts. It was, I'm getting used to these blowouts, so it was kind of like upsetting that they didn't just destroy them. But they got the win, like 26-6 or something like that. Defense played great. Offense played great too. Just used to these 40, 50-point games. Weather's clouds. Still 30s and 50s. Maybe there wasn't 50s. Maybe it's 30s and 40s. Subscribers, not a ton of movement here. Email 62. YouTube, though, did move. I went from 43 to 48. YouTube's pretty, I wouldn't say it's easy to grow, but you post them shorts, they give views, and then you get some followers. It's pretty simple. The Spotify and the Apple, the same, 17 and 17. I don't really know how to make those grow. I mean, because everything needs attention, and you can't do everything, right? There's so many channels out there now, you just can't do everything. But anyways, reminder, please submit your questions to dennis@dennisfenrich.com or reply to the email if you are already subscribed. Thank you for listening. All right. Let's get into this. It's time to shine. Caught you off guard with that one. Opening statement. We are undoubtedly better at thinking, planning, and making decisions when in a calm, clear state of mind. Say it again. We are undoubtedly better at thinking, planning, and making decisions when in a calm, clear state of mind. That is an undeniable fact. When you're calm and clear-minded and thinking clearly, you'll make better decisions. We all make better decisions like that. Therefore, gaining control of our stress rest continuum, the SRC, is critical to creating the life that we want, right? If you're always making your decisions in a stress state, you're not going to make as good of decisions. In fact, you're going to make more shorter-term decisions because good, clear thinking, calm, clear thinking allows you to think bigger. It allows you to see farther down the road, and then you can make decisions that can move you to that thing you see farther down the road. But if you're always stressed, you're always going from thing to thing, you're not slowing down, you're not calming down, your decision making is going to stay in the more immediate time frame. You're not looking down the road. How can you make decisions about down the road if you're not looking at it and thinking about it in a calm state of mind? Learning how to guide our SRC is the goal. Learning how to guide our stress-rest continuum and get it to where it needs to be based on the situation and what we need to do is critical to creating the life that we want to create. That's the opening statement. So let's get into this. Some of the, like I said, we're going to go over total stress load, which is a concept that we all need to start thinking about and understand to some degree. We're going to get into the vagus nerve, which is going to give us a little bit of anatomy and a little bit of understanding of how breath work is influencing. We're able to influence our physiology with our breath work. That's going to go through the vagus nerve, but we got to talk about total stress load first, right? So total stress load is exactly what it says, short TSL. What is the total amount of stress that you are incurring on a daily basis or weekly, monthly, whatever? Your SRC, strength, rest, continuum, is directly impacted by your salad. Your SRC, your strength, rest, continuum, is directly impacted by your TSL. I apologize for the acronyms, okay? But these things are somewhat technical, all right? So how I am, where I'm sitting on the stress, rest, continuum is going to be impacted by my total stress load. Total stress load is just that, which I already said, your total stress load. All the things adding up. So what are all the things? All right, we're going to break this down a little bit here. You basically can break this down into two categories, psychic stress and physiological stress. So mind stress and body stress, okay? So psychic stress. Did I change the order? Oh, did I change the order on this? No. Psychic stress, chaotic environment. I didn't take that out. Back up. I moved that to the second page because it made more sense. I'm getting ahead of myself. So there's two places we can identify stress, or we can think about having a total stress load. Our physiological and our psychic. I'm going to go over the physiological first. It flows a little better this way. All right. Toxin exposure. So what's going on in your environment, right? Are you smoking? Probably not. But if you are, that's a pretty obvious thing you can get rid of. That's going to definitely be affecting your stress levels, right? How about the air that you're breathing? How about the environment that you're in? What's the air like in there? Are you getting exposed? Are you using a lot of lotions and soaps and things in your head that could be influencing your stress levels, right? Because your body has an incredible capacity to detoxify. It's always getting rid of stuff, right? It's a flow through system. Things are coming in, and what it doesn't need is flowing out. But you can exceed or start to challenge its capacity to do that. You can totally exceed or challenge that capacity, okay? I'm going to go down that road. Listen, chemicals are bad, okay? But I don't think, I'm going to catch some flack for this. I don't think we need to be super freaked out about them in our daily lives. And here's why. Here's what kind of occurred to me like 6 months ago. I was looking out into the world, and I noticed that there's ladies on the planet that will get their hair dyed every 6 weeks for their entire lives, and they still make it to 80 and 90 years old. Okay? So directly putting, quote unquote, chemicals, which are just, we almost associate the word chemical with bad. Not the case. But think about that. Somebody can incur this chemical exposure for 6 weeks, every 6 weeks. This is definitely chronic for their entire lives for 2, 3, 4 hours at a time, however long it takes to get your hair dyed. And they still live into 80 and 90 years old. So I'm not saying we shouldn't pay attention to it. I'm just saying maybe we shouldn't freak out about it. Maybe the freaking out about it and incurring stress from freaking out might be more detrimental. Just saying, just trying to offer a more balanced view. Okay. All right. Off my soapbox. Physical stress, toxin exposure. Movement is a physical stress. Anytime you move, you create energy byproduct. Energy byproduct is, in a sense, a stressor that needs to be taken care of. Exercise is a stressor. Remember, we're talking about total stress load here. Poor diet, lack of nutrients, and exposure to food chemicals. There it is again, chemicals. Food chemicals, but also plant chemicals, right? Keep it in balance. Poor sleep is a physiological stressor. Work, if you're doing a physical labor job, is a physiological stressor. And there's tons of them. These are the big ones. Psychic stress. We've got relationships can be a psychic stressor. Can also be a benefit, How are you handling your relationship? Are they healthy? Or do you have good communication in there? Your finances can be a stressor, or they can be a plus, depending on your situation. They were a stressor for me for a long time, like the majority of my life. How ordered or disordered your environment is. Chaos is stressful. Disorder is stressful. I'm actually going to cover that in the series on the psychophysical, the mind-body. I'm going to get into how that is and why that is. Work again pops up as a psychic stressor as well, because what if you're an engineer or an accountant, or you're getting pressure from work, you're in sales, some sort of psychic stress that you have to deal with. Poor sleep pops up again. It's in the physical, because if you're not sleeping well, you're not rebuilding your tissues as efficiently as you could. But also, if you're not sleeping well, your brain isn't getting recovered. And like we talked about before, it gets washed over at night. I think it's like a synovial fluid or something. And it cleans it up, and it gets rid of the brain byproduct of using your brain that needs to get cleared out of there. It helps you forget about emotions that you don't need. It helps you forget about memories that you can discard. It just gets itself all straightened back out so you can wake up and do it again and be awesome. So those are some examples of physical stress and psychic stress, and how those things can contribute to what we call total stress load. So if you think about it, if you're training 7 days a week, you're not sleeping very much, you've got maybe you're dealing with some personal relationship stressors, maybe your finances are wearing on you, you can start to see how all this stuff, the totality of these stressors, can accumulate and begin to challenge your capacity to recover and start to become chronic and start to become a problem. Some sneaky psychic stress. I thought I'd throw these out there because I thought they were interesting. I already mentioned chaotic environment. We'll talk about that in some upcoming episodes. Poor communication skills. That is a psychic stressor. If you're not able to communicate what's going on with you, well, guess what? That's not good. Lack of honesty. Lying is a stressor. You got to hold that up. You got to hold that thing in your head. Not expressing ourselves. Purposelessness. I heard about this maybe 15 years ago when I heard about this through learning about total stress load from a doctor named Charles Gant. The guy's brilliant. But it was the first time I had heard that. Purposelessness. Not feeling like you're doing anything of value, essentially, or that what you're doing isn't contributing in any meaningful way, right? You have to find something that brings meaning. And I hear a lot of people just start bashing on jobs and all this stuff. What are you doing? You're stuck in a cubicle, blah, blah, blah. I call it nonsense. That's silly. Listen, your purpose doesn't need to be your job. Your purpose can be anything. Your purpose can be raising an awesome family. Your purpose can be going out into the world and being a positive, shining light, right? And your job can then be fueling that purpose, right? So it's all about how you think about it and how you structure it. Unaddressed trauma. That's a sneaky psychic stress. Maybe not so sneaky. Constant input, right? From the iPhones and all the stuff going on in the world. Just adding up the sounds, the noise. None of this makes any sense on the buttons. I tried working the buttons in. If I had like a busy street and a lady screaming and whatever, but I got none of that. So anyways, allow me to laugh. But constant input, right? The iPhones, the radio, the TV, it's just constantly, we're trying to take in information. Every time we get some downtime, instead of letting our brains maybe slow down a little bit, so now let me pick up that phone. What's going on at IG? Hey, what do we got to yell about on Facebook? How's my TikTok, doing? Blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. Take a break, set the phone down. Now, want to add a little caveat. Your mindset, how you think about a situation, impacts your stress response. What do I mean by that? You got all these things going on, and your perception of what is going on is, I can't do this. This is overwhelming. This is too much. And it's kind of happening to you. That's going to be a different stress response than, I can do this. I got this. And you're going out and getting after it and attacking the things that are coming at you and getting them squared up. There's a big difference between And this has been shown, soldiers at war, if they were to get pinned down in a situation where there was nothing they can do, or they were in a situation where they could go out and be proactive and go after something, it was a very different stress response, right? If you're cowering in a corner, scared out of your mind, feeling helpless, or you're still scared, but you're going out pursuing what you need to do, it is a very different stress response, okay? Both stressful, but different. And last little caveat, remember, acute versus chronic, right? You have to keep that in mind. Acute stress is good. Even chronic stress is good in the right dose, right? If you're training really hard and you're in a hard training cycle and you got 6, 8, 12 weeks, you're accumulating stress. It's essentially becoming chronic, but then you have your little deload phase and then you come up out of there and then you get the super compensation of fitness. So you got to discern, am I able to work hard right now? I'm incurring a lot of stress. I can get after this. I can go through this. And then when you get on the other side, now it was a long chronic exposure, but then you get to adapt and recover and get stronger after, okay? So just keep that in mind. We're saying stress, and stress has a negative connotation tied to it, but it shouldn't be perceived as negative, like the word stress. It should just be a signal, what's going on, what's happening. Okay. Vagus nerve. We're going to talk about the vagus nerve and get into the anatomy a little bit. And some of these things were getting so long that I had to compress what I was saying. Man, I can barely read this. Here we go. Length. So let's talk about the vagus nerve from an anatomical perspective. Like, what is it? Length. The vagus nerve is the longest cranial nerve running from the brain to the large intestine. So it runs from your brain all the way down to your large intestine, and it gets into contact with pretty much every major organ along the way. Your heart, your lungs, your liver, your kidney. It's got its hands. It's reaching out tentacles and getting in contact with all that stuff. Branches. It's not V-E-G. It's not V-E-G-A-S. It's V-A-G-U-S. All right. We're not going to having a party. We should be having a party. Sometimes. Anyways, vagus, V-A-G-U-S nerve is a large meandering nerve with many branches, as I had just mentioned. Function. The vagus nerve controls a range of vital functions, including breathing, heart rate, and the immune response. It also carries sensory signals from the internal organs back to the brain. This is the main highway of information from your vital organs to your brain and your brain to your vital organs. Okay? It's a big deal. Name. The vagus nerve. Oh, we're going to talk about the name. This is the Google AI, by the way. I forgot to mention that. The vagus nerve is a pair of nerves that emerge from the left and right side of the medulla oblongata portion of the brainstem. Now, I think pretty much everybody's heard this medulla oblongata before, and I don't remember why. I thought it was in a movie that was like a big hit, and it was kind of like a joke everybody was saying, the medulla oblongata. I don't remember exactly, but when I saw that, it made me chuckle. A little drink of water there. Connection to the nervous system. The vagus nerve is part of the parasympathetic nervous system, which controls rest and digest functions. That seems limiting because it can go up or it can go down in what's called tone. And I actually took it out, but I'll mention tone here. Anyways, connection to other organs. The vagus nerve affects several organ systems and regions of the body, such as the tongue, the pharynx, the heart, and the gastrointestinal system. So I threw in some extra things there. Tongue and pharynx, interesting. So it's connected to everything, okay? It's the super highway of information from your body from your brain to your organs, and, everything that's important about you for the most part. So let's see, how am I going to work this tone in there? So tone, you want to think about tone like this, okay? So imagine right now that every muscle in your body just disappeared. It just vanished. It's gone. What would happen? You would just collapse down into a pile of bones. Okay, so what does that mean? That means that there's always some tension in your body. There's always some tension in the nervous system and the muscular system that is maintaining whatever position you're in, even when you're laying down, right? So in the physical world, the physiological world, the medical world, especially physical therapists, that's called tone, right? What's the overall tone of your physiology? Are you toned up, stressed up? Or are you toned down, right? What's the tension or tone throughout your body? Kind of an important concept to understand. Just wanted to throw that in there as a little nugget. because I wanted to talk about the medulla oblongata a little bit. Location, the medulla. I'm sorry. Wrong button. The medulla. Oh, what a name, man. The medulla oblongata. Okay, location. The medulla is located at the base of the brain where the brain and the spinal cord meet. So this was called the lizard brain for a while, probably because lizards have been around for so darn long. It's kind of lost that connotation. It's lost that naming, which is good because it was kind of weird. Made it sound like a negative thing. It's basically the part of the brain. You got three parts. Oh, man. Cerebral cortex, the medulla oblongata, the brainstem, and then that one in between. I didn't get into the brain part. Anyways, it's the connection between your vagus nerve and if you got vagus nerve, medulla oblongata, and then into the rest of the brain. Okay, it's like a hub. This medulla oblongata thing. Function. The medulla controls involuntary functions like breathing, heart rate, blood pressure, and digestion. It also relays signals between the brain and the spinal cord for sensory, motor, and proprioceptive information. There it is. So proprioception is like feedback from your body, basically. So it's important to know that physiology a little bit or the anatomy a little bit, because it's going to help you to understand how when you tie into your breathing, you're going to be able to influence your vagus nerve and then influence the medulla, the oblongata, and influence your brain and what's going on with your stress levels. Okay. Hopefully I didn't lose you on the anatomy. What is breath work? What is this? So we're going to break that down a little bit. But before we break that down, we're going to help you understand why it's so important. Okay, I want you to think about oxygen intake. Oxygen intake has been here forever when it comes to life, right? So at least, some organisms breathe CO2 and some organisms breathe oxygen. We breathe oxygen. And what we've evolved from has been breathing oxygen for hundreds of millions of years. So our physiology is incredibly adapted to the environment and how much oxygen we're getting in. So much so that you're dead if it's cut off for 5 minutes, okay? You're passing out in a minute to 2 minutes, okay? And think about, remember how we talked about time dilation and how long a lifespan is, 70 to 80 years, okay? So think about now how long 2 minutes is in relation to 70 to 80 years. It is an instant. So if oxygen intake stops, the game is over. And then we are absolutely 100% built around oxygen physiologically. We are adapted. Everything is hardwired for that oxygen, okay? It's been here for so long. Therefore, breathing is a direct line to the most important aspect of our physiology, right? Over time, we've evolved the capacity to control our breathing. Lions, tigers, and bears don't control their breathing. If insects breathe, I don't know if they do, they must, they don't control their breathing. No organism on the planet that I know of, there's probably a small handful, I guess if like a mammal goes underwater, but are they consciously controlling? Because a baby will hold its breath underwater. It's kind of hardwired in. But we can override that, right? We have the capacity. I could sit here right now and start doing some abdominal breathing. I could take over that system that is ran by the medulla oblongata, right? By the brainstem, which is interesting because now I can start to affect my physiology by using my conscious mind to affect my breathing. Hopefully you're seeing how this is all starting to tie together. Let's talk about breathwork a little bit though and its history. I'll just go through it real quick. Breathwork gives us a direct way, a tool of controlling where we are on the SRC, on our own personal stress rest continuum. You are directly tapping into your autonomic nervous system through your breathing into the vagus nerve, then into the brainstem. I'm not saying it again. If I say that word again, you're going to turn this off if I say that word again. Maybe not. I don't know. Enables us to guide our physiology. I already said all this. And where the body goes, this is critical. Where the body goes, the mind goes, right? My body can't be super worked up like we talked about before. If I'm standing on the edge of a building that's 20 stories up, my physiology knows what in the world is going on. And I actually could override that and calm that down. But if my physiology is riled up, I am going to have a very hard time calming my brain down, right? I'm going to have a hard time controlling that the stronger the signals coming in. Okay, let's talk about breathwork a little bit. Google AI. Breathwork is a practice that involves intentionally focusing on the breath to promote physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being. The basic idea is that breathing out releases toxins and stress, while breathing in nourishes the body and mind. And essentially, that's kind of a woo-woo way to state it, but it's still accurate, right? You know, when you do breathe out, you do release toxins, you release CO2, which is toxic. And when you breathe in, you are breathing in nourishment, you're breathing in oxygen, okay? So, woo-woo way to say it, but it's still accurate. Breathwork has been practiced for thousands of years across many cultures and spiritual traditions. Yoga. In India, yoga breathing, also known as, pranayama, has been used for thousands of years to obtain higher states of consciousness. Chinese medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, and Qigong incorporate breathing techniques to balance the body's energy. Incans, the Incan language, the word for breath is synonymous with spirit, soul, or the energy, which I think is actually tied to something a little bit different. And the same thing with ancient Greece. Ancient Greece, in the Iliad, Homer uses the word thumos, Thumos, to describe a life breath that resides in the lungs. Again, I think that's more tied to like a spiritual side of things and not trying to manipulate physiology. But I could be wrong. Yoga and Chinese medicine definitely trying to manipulate the physiology. What is breathwork continued? Some other breathing techniques include holotropic breathing. And it's just a litany of them. Box breathing, Boiteko breathing, the Wim Hof method, which I've done. That is interesting to say the least. Lamaze, it's funny, I read this wrong. Lamaze breathing, we all know what that is. A belly breathing exercise used in birthing circles, right? Diaphragmatic breathing, 90-90 breathing, lion's breath, alternate nostril breathing, 4-7-8 breathing, sit tali breathing, deep breathing, humming bee breath. I think some of that stuff's from yoga. I said box breathing. Box breathing is interesting because I think the name's pretty clever. Basically, whatever it is, you do a 4 count, you four count inhale in, hold for 4 count, exhale out, hold for 4. And so you kind of create this box, right? And that's why they call it box breathing. All breathing techniques are ways or tools to manipulate our physiology, body, to adjust our state, mind. That's all they are, okay? Different versions of the same thing. They are all the things that I just listed, all the way from the yoga to the Chinese medicine to the holotropic breathing, the box breathing, all that stuff is all versions of the same thing, okay? You got basically 3 options. You can exhale, you can inhale, and you can hold your breath. That's what you got access to, okay? There's not much, there's nothing you can really do outside of that. So they're all going to be variations of that. And tying this back to tone, so every time you inhale, the tone in the vagus nerve goes up a little bit. And the tone throughout your body goes up a little bit. It's not perceptible, but it's happening. And then every time you exhale, that tone goes down a little bit. Every time you breathe in, tone rises up a little. And every time you breathe out, tone drops down a little. And so what you can do is you can manipulate the breathing to say, I want to relax. So what do you want to do? And you want to exhale longer than you inhale. You want to say, do a 4 count out and a 3 count in, right? So I'm going to exhale for 4 seconds. I'm going to inhale for 3. I'm going to prolong the exhalation, and I'm going to continue through breathing, doing that over and over to down regulate the tone in my body to lower my stress response. That is what is happening, and it is simple as that. Now, maybe you don't want to be relaxed. Maybe you're going to the gym. Maybe you're about to give a talk. Maybe you're about to go be out with friends. You're about to go have a good time, and you want to get yourself toned up a little bit, right? Tuned up. Tuned up. Well, guess what? You can do a 5 count up and a 4 count down, and that's going to start to slowly raise up your tone. You can be way more aggressive with it. You got to be careful with the aggressive breathing, like the short exhales and the longer inhales, because you could pass out. So be careful with that. But All breathing techniques are manipulating the breath in the three options that you have. And it's really only two. The holding the breath is not really doing anything except stressing you out. Okay, so exhale longer than you inhale, you're going to relax. Inhale longer than you exhale, you're going to get more excited. Easy as pie. Okay, that's all you really have to know. Now, you could pick your favorite practice. You could try a handful of them and see how it goes. But ultimately, they're all variations of the same two things. Some caveats. We're talking a lot about like, hey, I'm going to manipulate my physiology. I'm going to get myself, I'm going to control my SRC, my stress rest continuum, where I'm at, man. I'm going to be complete control. Well, one, we're more guiding, okay? And it takes a lot of practice. But I do want to say this. It does have its limits, right? Like I think I said earlier, if you're training 7 days a week, you're not sleeping, you're fasting, you got a ton of toxic exposure, your physiology is still experiencing a ton of stress. And so, you're just not going to be able to breathe your way out of that mess. That's all, right? So you got to find a balance. But don't disregard it as one of the most powerful tools you have to control how you think, how you feel, how you respond in a situation. Getting connected to your breathing is getting connected to your physiology, and that is critical to you being able to control how you think, how you feel, how you respond in any given situation, and make sure you're responding appropriately. Don't throw away the baby with the bathwater just because it's not going to work. It works. Even in that situation, like all the extra stuff going on, your TSL's through the roof, even still, doing breath work is going to be better than not doing it. 100. Okay, I honestly don't have a ton of knowledge on breath work. I've done it for 6 years, but I basically have done the same one. I haven't dived into like seminars and books, but I did read one book. I think it's a great introduction. Author is James Nestor, Breath, The New Science of Lost Art. So James Nestor, Breath, The New Science of Lost Art. I've read it twice. It's a pretty good book. I like the first half better than the second half, if I remember correctly. But yeah, if you want to start getting into that and looking into it, you can do it. Eventually, I would love to go to some weekend seminars and really just kind of dive in and get some experience. But again, it is pretty simple. And so once I get the basics down, it's pretty much how my brain works, my interests work. Once I get the basic understanding, I go, oh, I get it. Then I lose interest, really. I want to understand, I don't know, this doesn't sound right, but the least amount that I need to know to get it is kind of how my brain works. Okay, that's the gist of it. Let's wrap it up. No idea how long I've been talking. Final thoughts. Start slow. Don't, oh man, I'm going to do an hour of whatever breathing every day. You're all pumped up after the podcast, whatever. Don't do that. You're not going to maintain that. Start slow. I started with 5 minutes a day. Before my workout, I did 5 minutes of breath work. You could do that sitting in your car. You could come into the gym, sit there, do your little 5-minute breath work thing, right? Just kind of get connected to that breath and start to practice. 5 minutes a day, that's very sustainable. 3 minutes a day, doesn't matter. Find it, make it daily. If you're going to do some of the more intense, the elevate yourself breath work, don't pass out. It's bad. Follow the daily pattern. And here it is again. Now maybe you're starting to see this daily pattern that I keep mentioning, right? Like move, train, eat, relax. Move, train, eat, relax. Rinse and repeat, right? So now we're getting into the relax part or the rest part, right? And seeing how that ties into, hey, I get a stressor and then I got to come out of that stress state so I can start to adapt to it and get stronger from it. Some perspective. Don't change your life, change your day. People have an experience and they want to go out and just get after it. And I'm going to start working out 3, 4, 5 days a week. I'm going to get on to all the nutrition. I'm going to start doing the breath work. I get in my sleep. It's not going to work. It's going to be too much. It's too much to think about and focus on. You have to build habits you have to build patterns into your life that then become second nature. And then you don't have to think about it. It doesn't take as much mental energy to do. And then you can build in another one. And then you can build in another one. So pick one. And if I had to say, look, you're not doing anything right now, I would say start exercising. Exercise by far and away is going to have the biggest impact on how you think, feel, and act, bar none, okay? Get that built in, and then you can start messing around with nutrition, or you can start messing around with breath. You could actually do a little bit of breath and exercise. But don't overwhelm yourself is the point. That's some coaching. Pick one thing at a time. Seems to be the best approach for most people. Psychophysical imbalance. And this kind of comes to this word that popped in my head, which is thesis. And I was trying to organize all the information and get it all ready to go before I started the podcast. And it occurred to me that the psychophysical, the mind body, is the deal. This is where things are starting to get a little bit frayed, if you will. And we're seeing a lot more stress in the world, and seeing a lot more people with anxiety in the world and not knowing what they're doing. And all the questions and all the uncertainty is really starting to grow. And my thesis is that we are, and I'll read it, we are experiencing a disconnection from our physiology that degrounds us from reality, and we end up floating in our consciousness, disconnected from our bodies, disconnected from the present, and disconnected from our world, right? We're spending so much time in our head that we're not getting connected to our body, and we're getting imbalanced, okay? I think it's critical that people have some sort of practice where they're getting connected to their body. If you don't, I think that is a stressful way to live unto itself. To maintain ourselves, we have to stay connected to our bodies. Consciousness must be embodied, encapsulated in our physiology to stay balanced and healthy. And that's kind of what I think is going on. All right, that's it for today, guys. I appreciate you listening. I'm going to give you some applause. You deserve it. Felt like I rambled on a little bit in this one. Previous episode I thought was fantastic. But hey, got some stuff going on, and I wanted to make sure I got this done. Next episode, we're actually going to get into the mind-body. We're going to get into that psychophysical and start to help you understand why it has evolved and formed up the way that it has. I think that's important to know, or at least have some sort of concept of. Help us grow. Like and subscribe. YouTube is the best place to support us, but support us wherever you need. Okay, we appreciate that. And lastly, submit your questions to dennis@dennisfenrich.com. I'm here to help, and I hope this is helping. All right, hope you guys had a good time, and we will see you in a week. Or you will hear me in a week. All right, talk to you soon. Bye.